but I've gone down to the sand on every different type of how could we solve this, and knowing that when I say we wouldn't vote to solve this in the way Bitcoin solves it. And every other system that I've seen would allow money to be manipulated again. And knowing human nature, it's kind of that greed. If I could put more power in my own control for somebody else's expense, I know it would be. I've come to the realization that it's only Bitcoin that can produce a foundational layer that Web3 and everything else can live on top of. And to connect that to governments, so even if you think about today, we think we live in a free society, but the thing that impacts us most in that free society, money, we have no vote on how much it's destroyed in value. So we have no vote in how much time we lose, and how much we're pitting ourselves against our fellow neighbor, because of how much money is being manipulated. And so if we don't have a vote on that in a democracy, what do we have a vote on? The most important thing in a democracy, we don't have a vote. So connect that to now Bitcoin, which removes that. And what it does is it brings truth into governments. And so governments all over the world are going to compete for labor, capital, entrepreneurs, ideas, just like they do today. And they're going to compete but they're going to move into a system where that competition is based on the truth. And some governments are going to say it's going to be a 10% GST type of thing on Bitcoin transactions. Some governments are going to say, you move here, it's going to be free, it's going to be less taxes, we're going to do this, but we're going to pay for services in another way. And there's going to be a global competition eventually for innovation in this space. I see that as just the next step. A pretty Austin's talking about this 20-year time. If we can move through it, but moves from a system that is decaying and will get worse. It is based on a lie that most people believe, to something that's based on truth. When something's based on truth and incentive systems are aligned, I think the best in us show up.
I love the optimism. It's going to be absolutely fascinating couple of decades for so many reasons. We are in for a tumultuous time, everyone. And I'm glad that we have thinkers like Jeff and Austin here to have these kinds of discussions. And we're going to need to continue to have these discussions and inform decision-making. It's really, to me, going to require a lot of education, just individual education. So take responsibility for learning about what's going to happen, and you can make informed decisions to sort of navigate the future for yourself and your family. We're going to move over to
Brady. Can I just say one quick thing before we go?
Please do.
And I want to reference Jack Muller's on this, because he gets this as well as many of the thought leaders in Bitcoin. Many of the people in Bitcoin do. When it's not to say that there aren't going to be a whole bunch of experiments on Bitcoin on top of Web 2, layer 2, layer 3 that don't go as planned. It's not to say that an exchange, when Bitcoin starts racing up, if you have your money on an exchange or trying to get yield on your Bitcoin, and you're going to lose your Bitcoin because of that counterparty risk, that there aren't going to be people hurt in the Bitcoin ecosystem. What it says is every experiment on top of the new protocol is making the new protocol stronger. And it actually doesn't matter what those experiments, like in the .com collapse, there were a ton of experiments on top of the internet that didn't work. Yep. And they provided knowledge for all the new entrepreneurs to say which ones would work. That's just on a new protocol layer that the benefit of all of those things benefits society writ large.
Well, we don't experiment.
Just one point on that. Jeff brings up such an important point that so many people, I think, forget in the Bitcoin world, in the sense that both critics of Bitcoin and fans of Bitcoin, in the sense that there was a period of time in the mid-90s when TCP/IP was not a foregone conclusion as the dominant protocol. There were other protocols that did many aspects of global networking or local networking or multi-site networking better, different. And there was still a lot of competition between protocols from IBM, digital
OSI.
computers, all sorts of different competing protocols. But there was a certain point after the commercialization of the web and after the launch of certain core applications, enough applications, whether it was HTTP and the web and kind of through the 96, 97 period, where the momentum started to become almost unstoppable because of the exponential curve. And that didn't mean like TCP/IP version 6 fixes a whole bunch of things that version 4 desperately needed, but very few people upgrade because it was good enough. It was good enough to get to people to a certain level of global information distribution. And that's the point I think we are at Bitcoin, where we are on that exponential curve. And it's still up to us to make sure we nurture the protocol and that we keep the protocol protected for what it is, and continue to innovate at the upper layers to provide all those valuable applications and experiments. But it's not a foregone conclusion. It's just the best thing that we have, and we should invest in that.
Yeah, and just I've decided, even in what I'm doing, I can't keep up to how many companies that are coming to me in the Bitcoin ecosystem, and I'm really excited about it. And I thought, how can I lever more of my time into this? I believe in it, and believe in the protocol. So I'm joining as a GP in a new Bitcoin only ecosystem fund. And
Awesome.
so, but when you look at what's happening there, more and more capital is racing into this system because they know there's an asymmetric bet and all of the innovation that's happening on top of this this system. So more and more people are spending. You're voting with your time, where to spend and make the most impact.